Well, today we're going to be working on what is by far the largest upgrade and improvement to my 30 by 50 workshop here. This is something that we have been planning since the start of putting this building up, and that is a massive pair of lofts for not only storage of large items and small items, but also we're going to be building out a hangout area with AC and all of that that overlooks the shop and all the cars. It's kind of a childhood dream of mine, something I think every car guy dreams of, you know, kind of the Tokyo Drift Fast and the Furious scene of looking out over the shop. It's a dream of mine, and we're finally making it happen. So we have everything we need to build both of our lofts and the stairs and the handrails and everything, and it's time to start getting them set up. Now, before we can do that, we still got to get some more stuff out of the way. We've been clearing out as much as we can, getting whatever doesn't have to be in here out. Got all the cars shuffled around, but we still need some more room. So we've got the race trailer backed up. We're gonna use that basically as a storage container and put as much of this stuff in there as we can, because the more room we have in here to lay everything out, set everything up, and work, the easier this process is gonna go, the faster we can get it done, and finally see what nearly the final form of this place looks like. Oh, I can't wait to see it all said and done, but we got a lot of work to get there, so I should quit jibber jabbering, and me and Josue here, we're gonna get to work. Let's get to it. Man, it feels weird to see the shop this empty. Oh, it'd be so nice if this is like what it was like normally, you know? This shop hasn't been this empty in a long time, but we've got pretty much everything cleared out. I'm hoping we can leave the compressor in place. We will have to move the tire machine. Same with this shelf. But we've basically got enough room now where we can clear out one area, build the loft, put the stuff back, clear out the other area, build the loft, put the stuff back. That's the idea. So now it's time. Now we can see what's in the box. So we're both so curious. I do know these are 1,600 pounds each, so should be a lot in there. Yeah, start cracking them open. Wow. Yeah, okay. So I imagine this is the stairs.
It's a box of bolts.
Dude, look at this. Now look at this. This is where the instruction manuals are.
It's professional.
They got a pen. Comes with a pencil. That's pretty cool.
I hope you don't expect us to use that.
I don't know how to write. I guess we should pop the tops on the other ones, huh? This is beefier material than I thought. That's good. I was worried it was going to be like super thin, like those racks. Yeah.
System sharp freaking metal.
So we're probably going to have to take everything out of that one and everything out of one of these before we start. All right, well, we got all of the crates opened up, and I gotta say, man, I wasn't nervous about this, but I'll be honest, here's what I expected. I expected kind of like this shelf. You know, this shelf's rated to 1,000 pounds per shelf or something like that. But, you know, it's pretty thin material. It's just kind of like pot metal. And, you know, that's kind of what I was afraid we were going to get. That is not what we got, man. This is better than I could have built it. That was my one fear doing it this way, is I was like, if I fabricate it myself, I can make it more robust. But we got nice thick base plates, nicely welded. The material is super thick, heavy duty material. Everything's really nice. It's all presumably powder coated black, which that was a big thing. Josue didn't know that, so he was excited about that.
Surprise.
You know, and then the size, this is why I wanted to do the loft out of steel instead of wood. You know, these are our legs, whereas if this were a wood loft with 4 legs, I mean, it'd have to be like tree trunks, you know? So
This is like a 4x4, which would probably not.
with wood, you'd probably have to do 4 on each side, 4 4x4s on each side or something like that. This is all has far exceeded my expectations. You know, their shipping, they were correct on that. It actually got here early. Very impressed. So the company is TecroStar makes it. TecroStar, made in Spain, but mezzanines online. That's where I got it from. That's where I found it. I was looking up, see if I could find a mezzanine kit, and I came across their site, and I thought the price was really reasonable for what you got compared to what I could build it for myself, and it just seemed to make sense. And here it is. Anyway, we got the boxes, spread it all out, and then start building it.
Nice little puzzle.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. I can't tell you how relieved I am that this is really nice quality stuff. Man, look at this packet they give you for assembling it. All right. So after going through the boxes and getting a good idea of which boxes we need the most access to get everything out we need to build the first loft, it was time to start clearing out the area. We're going to do this far side first just because in theory it should be a little bit simpler of a loft build, a little less, you know, options and add-ons and features. We just got to move the last couple of things out of there, including this tire machine, which is quite bulky and jammed in the corner, so not working great. All right, well, if I don't want to tear this thing up, I probably got to wait for Josue to get here to help me stabilize it, lift it up, and move it out of our way. But in the meantime, we have kind of a side project that really should be priority, so that way we can enjoy our time in here building these things, and that is the ACs. So I haven't deep cleaned these since we got them, so there's something's up with them. When it's not super hot out and when it's humid like this, they just don't blow very cold, and the humidity is pretty high in here. Got them on full blast and it's 76 with 62% humidity. They're long overdue for a cleaning, so I think we're gonna start there, because if we can keep it icy in here, make this project a lot more enjoyable. There's a lot of physical labor involved, so it's something I've been meaning to do, you know, whenever we had room to clear things out a bit. So get up there and see if we can get these things back to icy cold. I've admittedly been putting this project off for a very long time because I checked the filters and everything looked clean, so I knew that it meant that to get whatever this nastiness is that I could see from the vent side out, we're going to have to take these things completely apart and clean them, which meant making a bit of a mess, which wouldn't normally be a problem, but this AC in particular is right over top of this shelf and my workbench, my main workbench. So the idea of getting a bunch of crud and grime all over that is not ideal. So with the housing off, we noticed a couple little problems with the leveling and the water trough, but nothing too standoutish yet. All the coils look clean, everything looks good. So I went ahead and took the other AC apart, and it kind of had the same problem with leveling, but otherwise, it's from the top side, it seems clean. So there's no obvious answer as to where this nastiness is coming from and why these aren't working great. All right, well, we were initially planning on just doing a little basic deep clean, but shoosh, these things were nasty inside. Disgusting inside. Look at that nastiness. Oh, it's so bad. Part of the problem is it was just slightly sloped down this way, which was a problem because the water drains out on this side. So basically, the water would just sit over here until it got high enough to drain on this side. So we're gonna clean this thing out. We were trying to do it with it assembled, but it wasn't happening. And then we got this piece taken out. This is basically the trough that collects the water, and then this is the grate, and then what directs the air and the little servos to open and close. So we're gonna pressure wash this thing completely clean. And then that we'll have to do a little more due diligence with the sprayer. We've got a DIY solution for catching the water. We're making the trash bag method work. But yeah, so we're gonna keep cleaning. Get these things like new. Oh, we hopefully have some cranking AC in here.
Blowing.
While Sway was finishing cleaning up the other AC, the trailer side, I went ahead and started putting the first one back together. Fortunately, it's a pretty straightforward process. There's not a whole ton to it, just a little order of operations. You know, can't get too far ahead of yourself and trying to finagle all this stuff into place. But I am really, really curious to see if this is going to work or not, if this is going to fix it or if it's going to be the same. There's so many times where you get disappointed by something that seems like it could be causing your problem. But either way, it's time to get back to work, back to the main mission, the task at hand, and get the rest of this stuff moved out of this corner so that we're ready to start assembling the lift. Now, Josue's here, it could help me wrangle this 1,000-pound tire machine out of its hole so that we can tuck it out of our way and be ready to start building. All right, well, we went down the rabbit hole a bit on the AC units, but as you can see, they are fresh like new, completely clean. Very satisfying project. It was definitely worth it. One, because this has been hanging over my head for a while. Every time I would look at both of these units, this one wasn't quite as bad because it doesn't run as often, but you could see the stains from the water droplets coming out. You could see it was crusty in there and that it needed to be cleaned. And I thought that was just going to mean taking off the case and getting to the coils, but it wasn't even that. It was the fan covered in dust and grime and all sorts of stuff, which is weird because from the top side it looked clean. You know, you wouldn't suspect that it was that nasty on the inside, but it was. And I would say it was definitely worth it because check this out. About the same temp as yesterday when at full blast they couldn't even get us to 76 and we had about 60% humidity. And it's frigid in here. It's 70 degrees. I have this one turned back up because it was too cold. They're both absolutely ripping, and it smells clean in here. It smells so fresh. I didn't realize how not fresh it smelled until now it smells fresh. You know what I mean? So, side quest, but well worth it. Now we won't even have to work up a sweat while we're putting the loft up. So it's time to get into it. Been side questing too much. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get everything together, get everything organized, and it'll be time to start building it out, get our first loft set up. Big moment. I'm so happy.
You did not skimp out. 6,
7, 8. Just outside the post to the wall. You know, we can shift it forward a tiniest bit and cut this off. Should probably check that. Where'd you put my other tape measure, Jose? Before we can start building this thing, we've got to nail down our dimensions, and it's not as easy as it sounds because there's a lot of small things in the way that may or may not be in the way, and then there's a lot of decisions to make as far as height because we want enough room underneath it for things to clear, but we don't want it to be cramped up there, and it's a really, really tricky set of parameters to meet, so we've got to play around with some different ideas and just kind of see what looks best, what flows the best, what makes the most sense, because this is a big decision, and I don't want to have to redo this or change this down the line if we change our minds. All right, well, we had to use some visual references to decide what we wanted to do here. We were pretty conflicted. Initially, my plan was to bring both lofts to this beam here, right behind the AC. So that one and this one, and the staircase was going to go on this side, and this loft was going to be the hangout area. But we realized we could, there's not really any obstructions over here to bringing the loft out all the way to just past this beam. So we've got full length over here, which means we could then switch the staircase over to this side and make this side the hangout spot. Now the only question is we kind of wanted to get a little greedy and bring this one out full length. That would require us moving the AC, which is kind of complicated. We either really go forward or up a lot. Either one would be a bit of work and patching a hole and whatever, but we were willing to do it if it made sense. So we went ahead and tape lined this out. So this is effectively where it would be at the short setting and where the staircase would end, right here, just past this beam. This would be at the longer setting, but then the staircase wouldn't end till all the way out here, which in and of itself wouldn't be a huge problem. It wouldn't necessarily bother me that much. It does stick out like a sore thumb a little bit, as Josue said, but I could manage. However, we like to use this spot to put a car here, a long-term project, and be able to work on it. And with that staircase there, no matter where you could put the car, you're going to be right up against something. So you couldn't really work on it, which in our opinion, it's not really worth gaining the extra, just under 3 feet on the loft floor space to pretty much eliminate a major use for this floor space, more or less. So we decided on the shorter option. So basically, we've just got to start putting this puzzle together. Time to get to work. Let's get to it. Since these are adjustable, that means that we've basically got to set all of our lengths for our different beams. So our long-wise beams and our width-wise beams. So we're doing the long beams first. These are super thick and super heavy duty, so they've got a lot of weight to them. But one of the things that is really nice about the way they did the instruction manual is because you can set it at all these different lengths, it basically has every measurement you need at every different length setting. So there's no guesswork involved. It's just basically if I want this overall length, then these measurements and this spacing needs to be this. So we basically went ahead and got both of our beams assembled together and set to length, and then we could start working on installing our brackets for our cross beams. It's going to be easier to do this now than to do this while they're up in place because they're going to be backs against the wall, literally, and it's going to be hard to get the bolts in. So we wanted to get as much of this done while these were on the ground as we could, get everything snugged up, so that way we can get it in place and not have to worry about any extra steps. So with the long side beam done, we wanted to put together a front and a rear beam, so we've got basically the perimeter of the structure ready to go. All right, we've got both of the long pieces assembled. This is going to be the tricky part. Could go real smooth, could be real not smooth. Kind of like putting up the 3-car stacker. Basically, we need to attach the long piece to the legs, stand it up, start backing it into place, and then extend it up to the height we want it at, and then get it positioned and secured in place. And then we can put the front end pieces on. And once that's done, then it's put the middle ribbing on, square it all up, anchor it, frame done. Easy peasy. Let's get to it. So once we had the semi-sketchy, always a little nerve-wracking part of standing this thing up out of the way, it just always feels like it's going to want to flip over and keep going. It was the same problem with the stacker lift, but now it's time to get it and shimmy it right into position and try to get it roughly leveled out, or make sure that we can level it out, because if we can't, if there's too many things in the way for us to get these uprights leveled, then we might have to consider changing our dimensions. We are trying to make this thing as large as we can while still allowing it to fit, and it seems like it's going to work. So we went ahead and raised it up to its actual height, the height that we're going to have it at, and then we just need to secure it so it doesn't come crashing down on us.
I ain't going nowhere.
With the first one stood up and secured, this second one should be a little bit easier. There's not as much stuff that we've got to work and finagle this thing around. We've got a little less room to work because the other one is up in place. But otherwise, this one should, in theory, be a breeze. Now, I don't want to speak too soon, but it stood up pretty easy. The main thing we've got to worry about on this side is not poking a hole into any of the cars, but otherwise we've got all the room to work on this side. It's like a luxury compared to doing the first one. So we got it roughly in place, and then we went ahead and lifted it up to our set height, and then it's just a matter of shimmying it back into place. Now, one thing we do have to account for is there's still some pieces we need to attach that are going to be kind of hard to get to if we have this thing all the way completely where it's supposed to be. All right, well, we got both long sides up. One we basically built to the max without having to remove this outlet. So this one's a little bit tight, and we've got to get to these bolts from the back side. But we can get the rear beam up there, get the bolts in, and then shove it the rest of the way back. Beams, party on. So far, so good, though. OR2, man, putting in work. For me, kind of the initial finish line is having the front and rear beams on. So we have the entire perimeter of the frame complete, and then getting this thing slid back into place and squared up. Because if all of that's good and well, and we know that it fits and we can square everything up and everything levels out and it's not bound up against anything, then we know we're good. And it's just a matter of putting the rest of it together. So as we started putting the beams on, we noticed that it was a little bit smaller than we wanted it to be. So we decided to try to stretch it out to basically the next setting. And it is super, super tight. I mean, it barely fits, and we're still not really sure. This isn't really the finish line because these middle beams might actually become a problem. So we're trying to get it all squared up and leveled out, but again, we've kind of got less room to work now because the frame's wider and there's less room in between everything, but it's looking like it's gonna go in, hopefully. So it's time to go ahead and put the rest of the bolts in the legs to get those secured and tightened down so we don't forget about them. And once those are all snugged up, we can start working on the other beams. Now with these beams, we're gonna start in the middle, because if it's too tight somewhere, because it's too wide, we want to know. We don't want to get 3, 4, or 5 beams in and then find out. So we're trying to put all the tight area beams in first, and then if those go in well, then in theory, the rest should too. Look at that, dude. Would you just look at it?
It looks like something.
We did screw up a little bit in the sense that basically this whole thing would have been ideal to be flipped around 180, so that when you're looking in, you'd be looking at the front of the beams. You'd be looking at it like this instead, which would look a little bit nicer. But other than that, fits in there. It is snug. This leg is just a little bit pitched in because of the conduit there, which we're gonna have to fix, but other than that, they're all nice and level, and it is super snug in there. So not only is it supporting itself, but it can't really go anywhere, which we preferred versus, having it in a little bit more and having clearance to all that, but then it's, there's a gap. We're kind of relying on this thing being tight in here, so. Woo, all right, well, it doesn't feel it feels like it's way up there. We still got plenty of height. I mean, we could even put that big shelf under here. And then we still have plenty up there, so A1.
Climb on it.
Let's see what it looks like from up here,
Feels good.
Yeah, good size. It's exciting that one will be 2 to 3 feet long. Maybe squeeze the stem in like right here. Maybe not. Yeah, you stand right here and take a gander. It's like Tokyo Drift. So with the frame all squared up, it was time to go back through and tighten everything officially. It's one of those things when you're putting anything together, whether it's something like this or even working on a car, it's always ideal to not tighten things down all the way until everything is together, so that way you can get it together. But obviously, don't want to forget to tighten something down. So with that done, it's time to get ready to start assembling the frame of the second loft so we can get that together before we worry about finishing out either one of them. We want to get both frames up and in position and set up. So that requires a little more musical crates to get everything out of the way and make room. Again, having space to keep things organized is critical. So with everything we'd learned from the first loft and kind of what the interference points were, we wanted to go back through and measure this one again before deciding on a final dimension or a set of dimensions. All right, well, we've been doing a bunch of measuring for the next loft because this one's pretty, the frame's done. We still need to anchor it, but I'm gonna see if I can do some massaging with that conduit just to level this beam out a little bit. It's like in the lines, but I want it perfect. Once we do that, we can anchor it, put the stairs up. We were gonna try to have the stairs up too, but we decided to step it up wider, which was a whole curveball in the plan, so it took a little longer. But that being said, we learned a lot from that one that we get to apply to this one. We originally wanted to take this one out to the end of the base plate at 212, so the end of the beam would be around here. Basically, the end of the beam would be almost perfectly in line with the end of this. But the problem is we have this box here, which I can move the box over, but then the conduit's still there. Slay pointed out that when we have it at that extra width that we decided to do, the frame is resting right up against the lift and the wall. So we'd have to have it at the narrower width if we went that full length. Same problem with the beam, but you can move the beam back from the end. You can move the beam back to about here and then run the frame up to right where this is, like that. So this loft will end here and the beam will be about here. So it'll be almost like a little overhang. And that should be the compromise that gets us everything we need. Clears this pump, access to this, clears the conduit and stuff over there, also puts the beam itself not in the window, and then the frame would be above the window. It kind of covers all the bases, gets us what we want. I think that's the best plan. 6 inches shorter than the max length we could have gone with, which is what we were shooting for, but I was still plenty. I mean, any loft, just having one of these is going to be a game changer, let alone 2 of them. So, how are you feeling about it, Josue?
Feeling good. We're making progress.
Yeah.
It's an erecto set.
I mean, once we came up with a plan and measurements, and it went up really easy. Like, I think the next one we could do probably start to finish, or start to this point in a day, comfortably.
Yeah, I think we can say that.
Yeah, because, it's everything's easier the second time, and we're not spending time measuring and doing all that stuff. So, all right, well, we are unfortunately out of time for this episode because we spent a lot of time measuring and thinking, measure twice, erector set once. That's what I like to say. But yeah, it's one of those things. This is a huge deal, and we wanted to make sure that we thought through every possible option to find the best setup. And if you have any input on changing the setup, not that one's already built, but if you have any input on this one before we do it, let me know in the comments down below. But for now, I guess that's going to be a wrap. We still got finish these up and then outfit them, which is going to be, that's the part I'm looking forward to the most. So can't wait to see you guys for all of that, but for now, that's it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.